this is the presentation. I thought that was kind of fun. I wanted to just go over a little bit so you know who we are. I've had people request this before. And can everybody hear me okay? Can everyone? Is everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So we're Alicia and Sean Ford, and Sean is at his dad's right now, so I'm missing him. But we help those in neurodiverse relationships bridge the gap in communication with their loved ones. We developed a technique that allows neurodiverse brains to rapidly rewire to unlock their superhuman abilities, all while improving the quality of life and their relationships. These are our 4 boys, and we've been married for almost 17 years. Before we started Bridging the Gap, we made custom cakes in Southern California. Our lives have been crazy and hectic, and honestly, it all led to the breakthrough, so I'm grateful for it. We really, really went through hell, but it all ended in good things, so that's good. January 5th is when we had our first breakthrough, January 5th, 2020, and it changed everything for us, and I blogged all about it everywhere, and I shared everywhere, and it's just been sharing and spreading word of mouth, and that is where this group came from. And so that's what it all got it started. So the technique that we have termed is neural bridging, and that's what our breakthrough evolved into. So we didn't realize what it was at the time, as that's what it was, but essentially that's what it turned into. And I'll explain what that means later, because it's not a familiar term for people since we coined the term. So and then this is our oldest son, Ammon. He's 15, Cameron, who's 13, Brayden, who's 11, and Drayson, who is 9 at the end of this month. So today we're going to talk about, 10 things, I guess more like 8. So number 1, in order to understand these concepts, you need to kind of have faith like a child. Number 2, we're going to talk about your struggles and the thing that you're struggling with. 3, we're going to talk about the root of the problem. 4, we're going to identify what manual processing is. 5, we will explain what neural bridging is. 6, we will talk about the boxes that you have currently in your brain. 7, we will introduce a new box. 8, we're going to bridge the gap. 9, you guys will open up the meeting to people if they want to share their experience with applying the boxes and everything like that. And 10, we will go over questions if you have any. So faith like a child. So the tool that I'm going to teach you guys is going to be painfully simple. Okay, it's so simple that your grown-up brain is going to want to reject the idea of it because it's so simple. I've taught this to my younger 2, Dre and Brayden, and I taught it to Dre in less than 10 minutes. I was running out the door to my dentist appointment, and he was just melting down. And he's like, "Well, Mom, you still haven't taught me the new box." And I was like, okay, I will. So I pulled him in the backyard, and because we were at my mom's house, it was the only quiet place. And I sat him down and I taught him in 10 minutes. And he was just so happy, and it just like changed and snapped for him. And he's been doing so extremely well. Today, all the kids have been like triggered. Everyone's driving me nuts today, but who knows? It's just a weird day. But that happens with people because it happens with normal people. So of course it's going to happen with us. Anyways, so I taught my 11-year-old in about 15 minutes, and it's been life-changing for him. The reason they can learn it so quickly and efficiently is because they believe the simplicity of it, and they don't have grown-up prejudices about it. So they don't deny the relief, and they can't deny the results either. So our brains are really powerful. That's why studies are required to do blind placebos, because our brains are so powerful that they will create the desired results unless they're sure that they're not even getting it, or they're not sure if they're getting it or not. So if it believes it was going to get the pill, it's going to change regardless of if they got the pill or not. So it's been said that the brain is also so amazing that if we held a mirror to it, it would fix itself. So I won't touch much on this because I know you guys have all read a lot of these posts and it's all in the group. These slides will also be available to everybody to be able to go back and look at it, but it's just a lot of material. So I don't want to like, you know, drown anybody with it. But we're going to talk about just some of these things. And you can just answer it in your head. Okay. But basically what this is focusing on is to determine if you're struggling with your executive function. So can you easily break down a task and get going on it? Now, this should be automatic. If your executive function is automated, it would be automatic to break down the task and then get started. So if you are having to manually do this, that's a sign that you are manually processing your executive function. Can you change from one thing to another without forgetting? So switching what you're doing and not forgetting what you were doing when you went back, or like your thought process. Does your brain feel like it's 30 to 100 TV channels all changing at the same time and you feel like someone else has the remote? And does changing your surroundings change the channel of your brain? So for example, I would be working on something on my way home while my son was driving. I'm working on my, iPad, and I am thinking, oh, I'm going to keep working on this the second I get home. I'm going to keep going. And then I pack everything up and I walk inside. And the second I walk inside, my surroundings change. So all of a sudden I'm like, and doing something else. So that's what I mean by that. Do you have an internal clock that keeps track of time automatically? So this doesn't mean you are hyper focusing on time to make sure that you are not late or to make sure whatever. It would be automatic and instinctual. So I know Sean has this feature, okay, but he didn't have a fully automated executive function either. So does your internal clock keep you on task, remind you of how long you should be doing a certain thing to stay on track with your goals, both short and long term? Do you have no concept of time and have no way to gauge when you need to be in places? So you hyper focus on and it gives you anxiety and it affects your progress in the meantime. So just think about that. If you're hyper focusing on time, that means that you're doing that as a coping mechanism and you are manually processing that feature. Is it easy for you to hold pictures in your mind regarding the future? Do these pictures create a set of instructions that get released in little steps and keep you self-motivated about decisions you make in the now and determine what choices you make? So for example, my husband, he has no problem with his nonverbal working memory, so he can visualize things in his brain. It's almost like he has a little bit of Photoshop going on in there. Whenever we would work on cakes and I had to make a sketch design, I'd have somebody send me a picture of what they want, but they would say, but I want this picture and I want it to say, or this color, and I want it to say this, and I want it to this. And so those changes for me, I had to go draw up a digital sketch because I couldn't like suspend all that information in my mind and like see it every time I looked at that picture. But apparently he could. So also envisioning a goal, say for example, about the future, like with weight loss. For me, I know that people would always just say, oh, just what do you want to look like in the future? What do you picture yourself looking like? Or what do you picture yourself doing? For me, the future was just this mysterious beyond. It was just fuzzy and I couldn't see it. And when it came to goals and everything like that. Now, when it came to overwhelm, I could see it clearly. Okay. So this picture would also enable you to alter your choices in the meantime and provide you a reward, that long-term reward. It would provide it for you in the now and keep your like decisions and your choices under wraps in the moment. And it would control your emotions in the moment. And you should be able to sustain that for at least 3 months once you turn 30. Are you able to use your verbal working memory? Meaning, do you have an internal voice that gives you instructions and guides you and your behavior? Or does your internal chatter change when your surroundings change? Like your channels changing? And do you have negative self-talk about your ability to stay on task, follow through with things, or live up to the standards around you? So I realized that the voice inside my head, or the voices inside my head, was not the kind of voice that I thought, or that I learned you're supposed to have. The verbal working memory is like a guiding, instructional voice, not a nagging voice, not a frantic voice, not a chaotic voice. 7, control and moderation of your emotions. Do you find yourself feeling helpless to your emotions that feel out of control? That when they hit, they take over your decisions and choices. For example, when you get sad or depressed, you can still stay with the long-term goal, or do you seek the relief or dopamine that will help relieve the immediate emotional distress? Let's see. When you're faced with an overwhelming thing, emotion, task, person, experience, how many options do you see when dealing with it? Do you painstakingly see the entire picture, how it's going to affect every person in the scenario, and the trajectory of each person's individual life? Can you see all the demands, emotions, and tasks all at once that are required in the current moment and future, and all the possible scenarios rolled into one? Or are you aware of the general picture and break down the obstacle and start with a little piece that's manageable? So those are good questions to ask yourself. And do you feel you are stuck between finding instant relief and being a failure, or doing it all and killing yourself? And can you plan for things that are not motivating or urgent? And then here's a link, and you guys will have this access to this when you have access to the slides, but this is a link to like all the questions that would determine if you are manually processing your executive function. And you don't have to have them all, because it will vary. Like, say, for example, you're a manual processor, you might not have a problem saying no to people. You might be very clear, in knowing how to say no, or your boundaries. So you don't have to have them all to still be manually processing your executive function, or largely manually processing your executive function. So those are all signs that you're manually processing your executive function, meaning it's like we literally don't have one. So you might be dealing with a partial executive function. You might be dealing with 0 executive function. It could range everywhere. Okay. But it doesn't matter what it is. If you are dealing with the 2 options, this tool that we're going to teach you will help you. So like a computer without a hard drive, we need to use things outside of our head as a crutch to act in lieu of our non-working executive function. Piles, lists, stickies, those are all our brain in the 3D world. If it's not written it down, it doesn't exist. That's why you may have a ton of tabs on your computer. For example, when I was writing, I used to have to barf up all the information first and then organize it visually on my computer in the 3D world. Sean always thought that I was crazy because for him, it would spit things out in order. Like he could do an outline, for example. Like I wrote an outline after my breakthrough. I wrote an outline in 15 minutes. I've never been able to write an outline my entire life. And I'm 37 years old. Okay. I thought that was amazing because the thing is my brain started to automatically sift through and filter all the things in my mind and just spit it out in the order that it needed to go. This is why we respond so crazy to when people touch our piles. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it is just me. But if somebody touches my piles, okay, or moves things without telling me, even if it's like on my Google Drive, for example, Sean went and moved stuff on my Google Drive and I felt so disoriented and so overwhelmed. I couldn't even do anything. I became non-functional. But like if someone was to go and move my piles all over the place, I would just be so freaked out and overwhelmed. The reason for this is because those piles and everything out there is our visual representation of our brain. Our brain, our executive function has to work on the outside. We don't have it on the inside, so it's outside. So those piles, it's like if somebody came up and started poking your brain, if they went in and just poked like the soft tissue in your brain, you would freak out at people because that's invasive. Don't touch my brain, right? That's those piles, okay? And that's why we have such an emotional response to it. I know at least I do. And part of the reasons we have those emotional responses is also because our executive function is broken and it's supposed to be controlling our emotional responses. So if you want to read more about what it feels like to struggle without an executive function, you can click on this post. There's a link right here. If you were to click here, it will take you directly to the link that I shared, the post that I shared about my breakthrough. And you can see if you relate to that. So after my breakthrough, I realized that these benchmarks have always been misleading because nobody stops to ask you if you are automatically doing it. And functioning above the level that is automatic for you will require tons of mental energy. These elements are being manually processed. So for example, you might have your planning or time management all automatic for you. Like for example, my husband was really, really good at understanding time. That was automatic and instinctual for him. Oh, yay, we got another person. All of these are representations. These are all things of our executive function. I realized that understanding simple instructions and running simple errands for me wasn't simple and it wasn't automatic. So for me, I would be manually processing running an errand, right? A simple errand or simple instructions like the bathroom's at the end of the hall and you're in room 6 when you're done would take a lot for me to remember and a lot for me to like follow or do. So that right there is telling me that this is where I was at executive functioning wise. So to function above this benchmark requires manual processing, meaning tons of mental energy to do it. I know this because after my breakthrough, I can handle the simple instructions. I can do the simple things. It's not hard for me. So it was easy and effortless to just remember when they gave me the instructions when I went to the massage place, go to the back, take a left, the bathroom's gonna be on your left, you can get a drink of water and then come back to room 6, blah, 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 whatever, you know? I know that seems like it's a little thing, which it is because a 2 to 4-year-old should be able to do that. But for me, I would struggle with something like that. Okay. This right here, able to independently start and complete tasks that takes up to 10 minutes. So if this isn't automatic for you, that means you have to manually process this, right? So for me, it wasn't automatic. I had to like manually do it. So it would take a lot of mental energy to make myself, do it and stay focused on it and not get interrupted. Okay. So basically, you guys can look at all of this later, but this is a good idea of getting like a good way to get an idea of how much of your executive function you are manually processing. Because if it's not automatic and it's not easy for you, then it is requiring mental energy and it is therefore manual processing. So the real root is CDR, cell danger response. Okay. The real root of everything is cell danger response. Dr. Navarro, I don't even know how to say his name, actually. I've been referencing him for months, but I don't even know how to say his name. He says that cell danger response is the evolutionary conserved metabolic response that protects cells and hosts from harm. It is triggered by encounters with chemical, physical, or biological threats that exceed the cellular capacity for homeostasis. So that means if it knocks you out of balance and you can't find your balance, that's bad. Okay. So basically it triggers an alarm and the alarm stays on and then your body becomes non-functional. So it's a protection mechanism that prevents the spread of threats. It's normally a good thing, you guys. The problem happens when it determines everything to be a threat and gets stuck in the alarm shutdown phase. When it shuts down, it stops communication between cells. When this happens in your brain, it shuts down neurons all over. When this occurs in your prefrontal cortex, it shuts off your ability to use your executive function. The shutoff can happen in any part of the brain and any part of the body. CDR is responsible for all chronic illness, and mental disorders. It's the root of it all. I found this out last November and my brain was blown. This is, I'm going to move you guys. This is cell danger response. Okay. This is a healthy cell and this is an unhealthy cell. And this is from these visuals are from drjockers.com. This is how it protects itself from these things: physical trauma, chemicals, psychological trauma, infections, and toxins. So any one of those things can trigger cell danger response. Now, you tell me, we live in a world full of all this crap. How is anyone surviving without some sort of cell danger response, right? So these are factors that trigger cell danger response. Biological stressors, pathogens, viruses, bacteria, parasites, fungal, nutrient deficiencies or nutrient depletion, inflammation, oxidative stress, hypoxia, right? Chemical stressors. I won't even read all of these because it's just, there's so much. But physical stressors, including trauma. Okay, so whatever kind of trauma, whatever it is, car accidents, injuries, burns, surgeries. I know that I have had cell danger response happening in my body ever since I had surgery 2.5 years ago. Psychological stressors. This is relational problems or divorce, emotional neglect, physical and verbal abuse, major financial stress, loss of loved one, and dealing with chronic disease. Okay, so literally, I don't know one person in this world that doesn't have to deal with at least some of these things, right? So that means everyone is really dealing with cell danger response at some point. This shuts the brain down and gives you less brain power to work with, okay? So if the cell is stuck in the CDR of hypometabolic mitochondria, this can dramatically impact brain functions as neurons are highly concentrated with mitochondria, okay? So in the prolonged state of fight, flight, or freeze, it can express itself as CDR and neuroinflammation, which over time can lead to these things, right? And this is just a few. It is actually linked to everything. So ADHD, autism, dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, mood disorders. Now, this is great. I found this picture today and I love this. So here's your prefrontal cortex. It's supposed to be working for you and it is a top-down control, okay? So this is the guy that gives all the instructions to your brain, okay? It runs the show. It is your personal assistant, okay? So when you don't have it, it's dark, it's cell danger response, right? Cell danger response is happening here. This is examples of prefrontal cortex dysfunction: forgetful, concrete thinking, difficulty concentrating, disorganized, impaired decision-making, reduced insight, judgment, moral conscience, decreased empathy and compassion, decreased optimism and persistence, decreased self-regulation, inhibitory control. So examples of clinical consequences, we don't need to go into that because this is just describing how this would affect you if you were a doctor with prefrontal cortex dysfunction. But anyways, now depending on where your prefrontal cortex is broken would depend on which one of these dysfunctions it would have. So what is manual processing? A lot of you will probably know what manual processing is already because you've been in the group for a while and you've heard me talk about it. But manual processing basically means that, well, if you don't have that part of your brain working, that means you're manually processing that part. Manual processing is like having to consciously recreate the wheel every day for things that our brain should subconsciously or automatically be doing for us. Traditional manual processors are very linear thinkers. So when they manually process, they are manually processing a never-ending sequential line. Like an earthworm that must bite through the mountain, they are excellent at breaking things down, but they painfully see the distance and know they will never be able to make it through. Mannies can be manually processing their executive function, but they will do it linearly, usually. Hyperprocessors, or anyone with a defunct executive function, both temporary or chronic, are trying to manually process like a snake swallowing a gigantic boulder. This boulder includes everything they're keenly aware of, all the emotions for them, others, tasks, future scenarios that play out, how it might affect based on what choice they make if they fail, how failure would negatively affect them, their family, friends, job, etc. They are painfully aware of everything. It's like this huge, giant boulder that just comes to sit on your chest and it overwhelms you. It might tighten your chest. It might give you butterflies. It might make you have stabbing feelings in your stomach. It could manifest in a bunch of ways, but basically it's just huge anxiety all at once. Because it's from looking at everything all at once. Not the linear line. It's more like a big quantum, I don't even know how to explain it. It's really hard to explain. So you find out the level that you are manually processing by considering how many options your brain is giving you when it's in distress. So when it's in severe distress, 90% shutdown, it reduces to what we call 2 boxes. Okay. So basically, when I was overwhelmed, my brain was going to shut down to 2 things. It would either seek instant relief, which would also result in instant guilt, or I'd be forced into do everything or feel everything now and kill myself. A lot of the time, I didn't even feel like I had an instant relief box. I was just constantly doing and feeling everything, which was like killing myself constantly with no breaks. Boxes just represent neural networks and the pathways that go there. The world's answers to solve this problem is usually to just educate everyone around you so they understand you, change your surroundings to suit you. So meaning like if you're a hyperprocessor and you need piles and lists everywhere, that means the manual processor in your life just has to suck it up and deal with it. And they're overwhelmed with the list and the this and the that and the, all the stuff and the mess, but they just have to suck it up and deal with it, right? Get on meds to band-aid the problem or learn skills. And now learning skills, when a manual processor has to learn skills, this is what we learned in our breakthrough with Sean. When you're telling a manual processor to do more, that's like, no, you can't. That you can't possibly do more when you're manually processing. You're already overwhelmed to the max. Okay. But we realize that these answers that the world gives for ADHD, right, was also the same ones they gave for manual processors everywhere, right? And that was something that all the hypers hated, right? They didn't, they said, oh, you just have to learn about their autism or their whatever it was that was causing their manual processing. It might have been PTSD or whatever. It was, okay, everyone has to learn about them. And then you have to change your surroundings. So everyone has to walk on tiptoes, right? Get meds on, get the meds, get on whatever meds you can to fix whatever you can, get the anxiety, fix the bipolar, fix the whatever, and learn skills. But again, none of that works long-term, and none of that fixed any of the problems. None of it fixed the real underlying problem. So if you're manually processing and you have to do one more thing, you will literally die. I know I cried my eyes out when we were figuring this out. It was the Thursday before we had our breakthrough, and I sat there bawling because I was like, you can't tell me that the answer to fixing my ADHD is that I need to break up everything in like 7 steps every single time I do something. Like I can't do more things. Like I have no idea how overwhelming it is. And he was like, well, you just have to blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I won't. Then I won't do it because I can't do it. I can't do anymore. So nobody liked these solutions. Nobody, yeah. So it says the answer is not to expect everyone else to change or do more to cover up the problem. No one likes these solutions when that's what the world told them to deal with their Manny. So we don't like it when we're having to do it, when we're manual processing either. The answer is to automate. Just like traditional manual processors have 2 boxes and we teach them that there are more. If we have 2 boxes, that means there are more for us too. Traditional Mannies are motivated by logic. We are motivated by emotions, feeling good or feeling relief, right? Even a manual processor who is having a triggered emotional response is going to be motivated by relief, right? Even a manual processor that is trying to, manually process that mountain through the, one bite at a time, that earthworm through the mountain is going to need is going to need relief, right? They want to feel relief. Every brain in distress is motivated to conserve mental energy. So if your brain is in distress, it's going to be seeking an easier pathway. It will take it if it sees it. Number 5 is neural bridging. Bridging the gap is built on the fundamental technique invented by Alicia and Sean Ford called neural bridging. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have learned how to rewire or connect wires in people's brains, but no one has ever figured out and connected it to cell danger response, connected it to ADHD, connected it to autism, connected it to PTSD, TBI, all the things, right? Nobody has ever been able to connect anything. And we've realized that black and white thinking, okay, whether you're a traditional manual processor, whether you're a hyper processor and you're black and white when it comes to your emotions, that is all the root of it. That is where you operate from your core. Neural bridging is the act of bridging neural pathways that have been bypassed due to cell danger response, trauma, and other neurological deficits. Neural bridging is a guided metaphorical technique that can be done individually through reading instructions or with the assistance of a BTG neural engineer. This guided imagery helps individuals create neural bridges within their own brains that are currently inactive. This produces results as fast as the individual can connect with the imagery. It is powerful and transformative. So basically, when we're connecting you to those neural networks, if your prefrontal cortex is shut off and it's just sitting there empty without power being drawn to it, when we build a neural bridge there, right? We build a neural connection to it. We connect the power and we plug it in. That's what we're doing, okay? Why we use boxes. Boxes help your brain focus on a location in your mind, and it helps make the abstract concrete. Our thoughts are powerful. Now, I've included the link to where this was, but every single thought of yours has an impact on your brain. Each thought causes changes in the structure and function of your brain. Some of these changes are temporary and others are permanent. When you run a certain thought through a certain region in the brain over and over, it makes connections with the surrounding areas, creating new neurons and synapses. These new connections make the thought stronger. Your thoughts reprogram your brain cells. The thought creates electrical signals. The signals are the result of the electrochemical reactions occurring within your brain and nerve cells. So this is amazing. Our brains are amazing. All we have to do is think a new way and learn new information, and we can literally rewire our brain. Did you know that you have 70,000 thoughts a day? And 95% of them are the same. Every single day, we repeat 95% of the same ones. They're also supposed to be 95% automatic for you. So they're supposed to be subconscious, okay? That's what according to Dr. Dispenza, and actually a lot of scientists say that, a lot of researchers. But we don't change because we repeat 95% of the same things each day. It's just like Groundhog's Day. So we're not changing if we're not changing what we think. Most people have slow change because they change a few percent at a time. So they do little tiny things. They make slow changes over time. But if you're anything like me, slow changes over time, you lose interest because your executive function is broken. So you're not going to be able to sustain anything over time for a long period of time. That's just not realistic, because that's what your executive function is supposed to be doing for you. It's supposed to be able to help you do that for at least 3 months, right? 12 weeks by the time you're 30. So if all we have to do is rewire is to think new thoughts, why haven't we fixed this before? Because changing 70,000 thoughts a day is exhausting. And if you're doing, say, 90%, consciously, or 50% consciously, or whatever is like dictated by your prefrontal cortex, if you are doing that consciously. Now, I know a manual processor is dealing with at least 90% of their thoughts a day. Okay. That's a lot of freaking thoughts. Okay. So if we're along that same lines, because our brain is shut down to black and white, when it comes to our executive function, how many of our thoughts are we manually processing a day? To cause permanent change and change that can be generalized, we need to plug in the neural networks not being used. Like abandoned malls around the country, we just need to plug in electricity to it. So I don't know if anybody knows about this, but there's abandoned malls and abandoned buildings all over the country. People have just walked out. They're just malls that nobody goes to anymore. It's just over, right? We don't just think new individual thoughts, though. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that everyone gets overwhelmed with doing. They think they have to, if you look at this tree, look at how many leaves are in this tree, right? That's like representing all your individual thoughts. If you had to change each one to get real change, that would be too exhausting. it would require way too much thinking. And it's like trying to water a tree one leaf at a time. How realistic is that? Who wants to do that to try to get some change? Not me. That's just too overwhelming. If we go directly to the roots, then it nourishes the entire tree. If we fix the error at the core of the brain, it will naturally affect the rest. Your body knows what to do if you give it the tools to fix itself. Same with nutrition. It does this for nutrition as well. Your boxes, okay? When facing overwhelm, your brain is activating only 2 neural networks. Oh, that's not supposed to be like that. Your instant relief box and the do or feel everything box, right? So you're either entering the world where you are escaping, right? Instant relief, but instant guilt. Escaping, where you're seeking dopamine hits like your life depends on it. You're getting distracted, but this box also represents failure. So while it's an instant relief, it also means you're a failure. And that's what you tell yourself. That's what you think. Now, the other box, do everything, is unbearable overwhelm, anxiety, stress. You're not even productive. You're distracted. You're doing distracted work, and you're chaotic and frenzied, and you're emitting an energy that's like a repellent when you're doing that. So you have this repellent that's just spewing out of you because it's chaotic, it's frenzy, it's needy, it's desperate, and that is what you exude. And this is where most of us live. Okay. Here's your brain. Now I want you to imagine that these are like the areas of your brain that are out of commission of cell danger response, right? Now we're going to be focusing on this right side right here. But like, for example, our manual processors, the logical brain shuts down to black and white, and they go to just their me box where they focus on just themselves, their necessary box, or the not necessary box where they throw everything else, everyone else's interests, everyone else's everything is where it goes. So it's this or this. So it's a place of mental danger for them, and that's for the primarily logical mind. Now, the emotional brain is that prefrontal cortex. Okay, this is where we're handling our prefrontal cortex. So when faced with overwhelm, we're either going to be doing instant relief, right? The place to get instant relief from emotional overwhelm, but also the instant guilt, or do and feel everything. The place where you feel forced to be faced with emotional overwhelm when you can see too much of what needs to be done and you cannot break it down. Oops. So visualize your current 2 boxes, okay? If you were to close your eyes, if you were overwhelmed right now, think of an overwhelm. You were to close your eyes, okay? Envision the 2 choices your brain is giving you, okay? When you have that anxiety on your chest, when your chest feels tight, your stomach is hurting, and you have like that butterfly feeling, that overwhelm, what is your brain telling you to do? It's usually, depending on the situation, okay? Because a lot of situations only give us one option. But depending on the situation, it's instant relief, grab the donut, go shopping, get the stuff, do the thing, get distracted, call a friend, do the fun thing, or 2, white knuckle through everything and kill yourself and sacrifice yourself, absolve the bomb, protect everyone else, right? Instant relief could also be exploding on everybody, screaming at everybody, because that provides you instant emotional relief. You release the exploding, right? But if you don't release the exploding, what happens? You absolve it yourself. And it's like you're trying to absolve a bomb, right? So if you have your eyes closed, you can picture on your left side the box that says instant relief on the front. So it's a brown box, and the words on the front read instant relief. Okay. And that's the world that you step into. It's a state of being. Okay. Now, on your right, there is that brown box that says feel and do everything. Okay. And it's the feel and do everything now. That's the overwhelm. When you're standing in this box and looking around in your brain, you have just piles of everything everywhere. Things are all over the place. It's chaos. It's overwhelm. It's everything, right? That's when you're in your everything box. So these two places are just your brain lighting up neural networks on either this side or this side, right? Just two. If you could envision a lightning bolt going to this one or a lightning bolt going to this one, that is what your brain is doing, okay? It's accessing just two. So these locations in your mind are a state of being. So when you're overwhelmed, what state of being are you in? You're in a state of overwhelm, right? Can you think clearly when you're in a state of overwhelm? No, nobody can. Now, can you think clearly when you're in a state of instant relief? I mean, yeah, but you're not actually doing anything stressful, so that doesn't help you out, right? So if you see mess everywhere in your brain, you are currently in your do or feel everything box, okay? So again, to recap, these neural networks, we refer to them as boxes to give it a concrete, like representation to the abstract. They also are just two options. It's the two options your brain is offering to you when you're overwhelmed. They're two places in your brain. They are a location, okay? They are the two neural networks that get activated whenever you are faced with overwhelm. Another box, you guys. Bada bing. Here it goes. Here it comes. So there's another box, and it's called baby steps, you guys. The baby steps box. So if you have your eyes closed, okay, and you're picturing that box on the left, the instant relief box, and the do feel everything box on the right, I want you to get your hands inside your head, pull it apart, okay? Pull apart those two boxes, and behind that is going to be the baby steps box. It is already in your brain, and it's going to move forward and come to center stage, because this box is the only box you actually need. You never actually need to use instant relief or do feel everything box ever again. You don't ever have to use box 1 or box 2. All you need is the baby steps box. This box is a concrete representation of your prefrontal cortex. This is a concrete representation of your executive function, of the part of your brain that is in charge of your executive function. This is your neural network that is offline. This is your empty mall, okay? So the secret is there's another box. This is that prefrontal cortex, and we call it baby steps to remind you that you don't have to do it all. You just have to be 1% better. You just have to do 1%, okay? You don't have to run to instant relief, and you don't have to do everything. This box will make you feel good instantly and give you relief when you realize and believe that it's actually there. On top of that, it will then begin to spit out instructions for you that you can do instantly and within your resources. And that will give you hits of dopamine from regular everyday crap, like putting a dish in the sink. It's amazing. So this is a little busy, but we're kind of going to ignore this side over here. So we're going to look at baby steps. We can literally get rid of instant relief. We don't need to run away to that destructive box anymore because it really wasn't good, and we beat ourselves up there anyways. We don't ever have to worry about doing or feeling everything ever again. We can literally get rid of both of those boxes. This is the baby steps box. Anything that feels too big to do or feel, emotions, tasks regarding yourself or others that you feel responsible for, will go in this box. This box also has a lot of little sub boxes that are going to be very helpful for you in your life. Okay. Patience. Patience is developed in the baby steps box. How hard is it to ever develop patience? I bet patience has been like ripping your fingertips off, because literally it is so hard to do when you don't have that neural network activated. It is manually processing your patience is insane. And I did that my whole entire life, and it made me crazy. Trust. Trust will be in your baby steps box as well. When you're trying to rebuild trust with somebody that feels insurmountable and huge, you're going to put that in your baby steps box. And justice. When somebody has wronged you, you're going to put that in your baby steps box, because the first step to justice, the first step to getting justice, is to free yourself of their grasp. That's what it is. Oops. Let's see. Oh, I have been missing the chat. I am so sorry. I should probably keep the chat up. So this is the new tool. Okay, so this worksheet can change your life. This is going to be the baby steps box worksheet. Now, unlike the Manny's, it doesn't have a thing to weigh anything when it's done, because I'll explain why in a minute. Let's see. So the baby steps box is your executive function. It is your built-in personal assistant for your brain and body. It is customized for you. There is no better like personal assistant you could hire that would be better for you than what this will do for you. And I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't live it myself. But any type of overwhelm, emotional, mental, or triggers. So if you have trauma triggers, that can go here too. The goal of this box is to relax and feel better instantly while being productive and creating guiltless boundaries. The first stage is to instantly relieve the overwhelm when you decide to put everything here and you realize and believe you actually don't have to do everything and you actually don't have to run away to get relief. The second stage will be micro doses of dopamine through automatic micro tasks. So when you put everything in there and you let your brain relax, it does its job. Okay. So just like a Manny who has the Beyond Control box, when you put things in here, you can just let your brain relax and it will start giving you solutions within your resources. The third stage. This is the holding place for all stray thoughts, so you don't forget things. Your brain will now know the pathway to recall information. This gives you power over feeling like your brain can't focus and is switching channels on you. This box is the act of handing off any overwhelm to your personal assistant in your brain. This neural network exists, and it is enjoyed by all the brain's not in cell danger response. Stop living below your privilege and utilize this amazing resource. Once you put everything in this box, it will automatically sort and spit back out the first thing you can do immediately within your resources. This eliminates problems getting started and also helps you see when you should stop something as well. So this got rid of like my OCD, because my OCD was like, no, you have to do this thing. You have to do this thing. Oh, it's only this one little thing. Just do that. Just do that. Just do that. And it was insistent. But the thing is, my OCD was not like checking on my boundaries or checking to see if I was going to go into the red. It was not considering my well-being when it was doing that stuff. And so when you put everything in the baby steps box and it spits out instructions, you'll be aware that this will be something within your like realm of possibility. And when something does get to be too much for you, you will know when to stop and you will feel no guilt when you do. So for example, when I did the dishes, on the first day I was applying this box, I came downstairs and the kitchen was a disaster. I immediately started to feel that overwhelm because I realized my brain was looking at the entire kitchen. But because I can't actually do that all at once, I reminded myself, baby steps, put it in baby steps, put it in baby steps. And I did. And so my brain said, all you have to do, just pick up that cup, just the cup, right? And we don't usually have a problem once we get started on something, but we have a problem getting started. So if we just picked up the cup, I picked up the cup and I put it in the sink. Then I turned around, I grabbed the plate and I did that and I did that and I did another thing and another thing. And then my brain said, actually, hold up. You don't have to do any of this right now because you need to take your son to seminary. He needs to go. You don't have to work on this right now. And so then my brain completely relieved me of every duty that I was thinking I was going to have to do anyways. Like she had already veiled me from it, right? My brain, I call her Natasha because she's my personal assistant. That is like a voice that came in my head on the second day. So she said, no, you don't even actually have to do this right now. You can just go. And then when I came home from everything, I looked at the kitchen again and I go, all right, baby steps. Okay. So I started grabbing a couple things and I only did what I could. Now, when it started to get to be too long, meaning time, my resource and time started to get to the red, I go, okay, that's enough. I need to go do some other things. This is good enough. The kids need to clean the kitchen today anyway. It's their chore. Now it's in a manageable condition for them, so they won't get overwhelmed. Great. Yay. I walked away. I had no guilt. It was wonderful. It was effortless. My brain felt light. It felt great. It was just wonderful. So you might need to use this chart in the beginning or for the big things, but this should automate quickly when it starts to resonate. When it resonates with you, it will automate quickly. If it's not resonating, if it's not automating quickly, that means it hasn't resonated. That means you haven't found the spot. It means you haven't located the location in your brain. It means you could just be overthinking it. It is a very simple concept. So the questions you might ask yourself would be to identify what is overwhelming you, what things or who is overwhelming you. And then you relax and let your brain remember that you can hand this off to your personal assistant. You are no longer stuck between 1 and 2. You can place the overwhelm in this box and close the lid. It will allow your brain to relax and it will veil the big picture for you. So all you got to do is focus on one thing in front of you, the one thing that you can do. This may already start to automate for you. So if it has, then no worries. You don't even need to use this chart. Just remember the keywords, baby steps. If it hasn't automated, no worries. Move to step 3. Step 3 is monotasking. What is one thing you can do within your resources right this minute? If you have properly filed this and handed it off to your personal assistant, this should automate for you automatically. The monotask should automatically generate. So, and it might happen in a couple, like it might be 30 seconds before it starts to come out. I've had people where I've taught them this and they are working through the new options right in front of my eyes. And it's amazing. If you can't do anything about it right now, that's okay. You can leave it in this box for later, because again, this is a storage space as well. Boundary. Do I have the capability without going into the red? Consult the chart to the red. You are always living in the red with the do everything box. What is a healthy boundary and solution? You don't need to feel the pressure to do everything anymore. It's literally humanly impossible to attempt to do it all at once. What other possible solutions are there? Now, you guys, here's our problems. Yes, yay, Natasha. So you guys, this is the boundary line that you have always been looking for, okay? This is this dotted line. This dotted line, your brain has been searching for this your entire life, okay? It has never known what is okay to do. So usually a manual processor will just say, nope, not doing it, right? And they go run to their necessary box, or they're living in their trash bin and they're living in the red. Now, it's the same for a hyper processor who's manually processing their executive function. Either you guys are living all in the red because you don't know where you should be able to say no confidently, or you're running away, right, to your instant relief. Now, the difference is Mannies don't usually beat themselves up for going to their necessary box because they see it's logical. They're like, no, I need to protect myself. I don't feel bad about protecting myself. Now, they might feel secondhand shame because of other people trying to make them feel bad, but they wouldn't instinctually feel bad for running away to their necessary box. However, a hyper processor is keenly aware of everybody, and they actually have hyper mirror neurons. So they're picking up extra on everybody's, like, their tone, their body language, everything. So because of that, they're sensing any slight discomfort, anything, any sense of disapproval, and it is loud. It is loud to their feelings. It is loud to us. Like, we pick up on it so hard. So if we run away to instant relief, we're also getting instant guilt because we feel the disapproval from everyone. Even if they're not really disapproving, we feel it as disapproval. But this is that boundary line. If something starts to put you in the red, this is where you get to confidently say, nope, nope, nope. And you don't have to get mad. You don't have to get defensive. You don't have to get anything. All you got to do is say nope. And nobody will get mad at you either, because no one's expecting you to go into the red for them. That's what we always tell Mannies all the time. No one is expecting you to go in the red for them to make them happy. Okay, guys, same applies for you hypers. Okay, no one is really expecting you to go into the red. We just do it to ourselves, okay? Because we don't know that there's a middle option. Again, here is the middle option. If this is instant relief and this is our do everything, what is this? what is this? This section right here is baby steps. These 3 columns, when something is affecting us in this way, this is our baby steps box, right? If you're in the red, that means you are encroaching over into something that is too much for you. So the 1,000 piece puzzle. So I explain it like this, okay? The problem with hypers is that everyone thinks you could do a 1,000 piece puzzle, right? Like everyone can probably pretty much do it. It's just you need, if you have enough time or whatever, right? Now, the problem with hypers is that we think when somebody asks us to do a 1,000 piece puzzle, we have to put in all 1,000 pieces at one time, okay? The reason we think this is because our brain is keenly aware of where all the pieces belong right that second. So because we are aware of where everything belongs right that second, we are also driven by the frantic urgency to do it because we're afraid we're going to forget where they all go if we don't place them right this second. So we're frantically trying to do it. But I want you guys to think about this. Is it even possible, even with 1,000 hands, to put 1,000 puzzle pieces in at one time? It's literally humanly impossible, even with 1,000 hands. And we don't have 1,000 hands. But often what we're doing when we're trying to do everything is we're yelling at all the people around us saying, why aren't you helping me? Why aren't you doing this thing? Why aren't you blah, 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 all over everybody, right? Because clearly you're in distress. You're trying to do 1,000 puzzle pieces at once. They should be helping you, right? But they're always telling us, now I don't know who's told you this, but I know for me, my husband told me at least 1,000 times, you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to do it all, period. Just do little bits, do one thing at a time, right? Just break it down, blah, blah. But that didn't resonate. That didn't compute because I didn't have that neural network activated in my brain. It's like it just like ran to just this, it like bounced around in the echoes of my brain. It just didn't have a place to land, okay? So once you put all these like puzzle pieces in your baby steps box, you don't have to worry about forgetting anything anymore because what it does for you is it spits out the pieces with individual instructions of where it goes. So it'll spit it out and say, oh, this one is the top left corner piece and it's going to go there and blah, blah, right between this thing and that thing. And it'll just tell you. So you don't actually have to worry. You're not going to forget. It's going to be okay. And guess what? After each puzzle piece, you can stop. You can celebrate that you put that puzzle piece away. And that is like a rewarding thing every single time. And yes, Susan, because we did forget. That's why we were panicked before, because we didn't have the box. So now it doesn't mean we're not going to do everything, right? So I know there's going to be a lot of us perfectionists right now when we're thinking, wait, we don't have to do it all, but actually we still do have to do it all. Okay. It's like with my son. My husband was trying to help him, right? Clean the kitchen floor. This was before he learned baby steps. He said, fine, just do 9 squares. And he was like, I don't know any simpler of how to break it up for you. And I said, okay, honey, the problem isn't that he needs help breaking it down, right? We can break things down into steps. We've done it 1,000 times. It takes a lot of mental energy and we hate it, but we do it. The problem is his brain is still spamming him with the fact that he has to do the entire floor. So it doesn't matter if you tell him just do these 9 first and then do the next 9 and then no, his brain is still looking at it even when his eyeballs aren't on it. Okay. So his brain is still going, do the whole kitchen, do the whole kitchen floor, do the whole kitchen floor, do the whole kitchen floor. And he can't move in the moment because it won't stop spamming him. And so when I sat him down and I explained it, he had to go through that visualization process where he had to picture the 2 boxes in his head and then he scooted it aside and then you saw the baby steps coming forward. And then I go, so how many boxes are in your head now? And he goes, 3. And he goes, I get it now. If I'm cleaning the stairs, I don't have to do all of them at once. I just do 1 landing at a time. Once I do the first landing, then I do the second landing, then I do the third landing. And I said, exactly. So it doesn't mean you're going to have to stop and take a break between each landing and never get your jobs done, right? Because that's overwhelming enough. It means that you're just not thinking about everything all at once in that moment. And you're putting it in that baby steps box. You're putting it in that box in your brain that is just that holding place. And you get to focus. Okay. And I asked him, I said, so what do you need to do the stairs? And he goes, a vacuum. And I said, and how hard is it to get the vacuum? He goes, not hard at all. And so that was a huge thing for him. Okay. Now, we are still going to do it, but we can't do things that are humanly impossible. So whenever we stop and think about what our brain is getting wigged out about, we have to stop and remember it's literally humanly impossible to do what our brain is actually wigging out about. Because as you all know, we are not Samantha Montgomery, and we don't have a cute little nose to wiggle that's going to do everything all at once. That's just not real. That's the movies. Okay. So our brain is broken and thinking we have this power, but we don't. Okay. So here's another example. Look at these two pictures. And this background is still even kind of blurry, but this background is clearer than this one, right? So when it is blurry, are we still seeing the full picture? Yes. It doesn't mean we don't know about the full picture. It doesn't mean we don't know it exists or that we're not aware of it. It just means that we're going to focus on the important things. And just like photography has the important thing in the front, this is the focus, you guys, right? And the background is blurry. What picture does your brain like most? Tell me in the comments. Okay, tell me in the chat. What picture does your brain like most, the left or the right one? Okay. I know for me, my brain likes the one on the left. It is more aesthetically appealing. And the reason why is because our brain is allowed to focus on what's important. The background is not important. Okay. It's just not. It's not important for the subject. That's for sure. So doesn't mean we're not going to know, right? It just means that we are not going to focus on it all. Okay. So something really important to know about you guys is that every healthy brain has this. This is a protective measure. Okay. It's a brain veil. It is a brain veil. We are late to the party. We are living below our privilege. We don't have to miss out on this amazing brain feature anymore. Now, Bobby, let's see. Okay. The right, you have to see it all. Now, is that what you're saying your brain is doing, like was doing currently, like of how it has to see the big picture? Or are you talking about that picture in particular? Do you like this picture better? Do you like how you can see the background, or do you like it blurry? So who likes the picture with the blurry background versus who likes the picture with the in focus background? Because this is, in the world of photography, this is distracting to the eye. And the reason it's distracting to the eye is because it's usually in focus. And this actually still has some blur. So this wasn't even the best one. Okay, so we're going to watch this. I'm going to show you guys this. This is talking about living below your privilege, you guys.
There once was a man whose lifelong dream was to board a cruise ship and sail the Mediterranean Sea. He saved every penny until he had enough for his passage. He dreamed of walking the streets of Rome, Athens, and Istanbul. Since money was tight, he brought an extra suitcase filled with cans of beans, boxes of crackers, and bags of powdered lemonade, and that is what he lived on every day. He would have loved to take part in the many activities offered on the ship. He envied those who went to movies, shows, and cultural presentations, and oh, how he yearned for only a taste of the amazing food he saw on the ship. But the man wanted to spend so very little money that he didn't participate in any of these. He was able to see the cities he had longed to visit, but for the most part of the journey, he stayed in his cabin and ate only his humble food. On the last day of the cruise, a crew member asked him which of the farewell parties he would be attending. It was then that the man learned that not only the farewell party, but almost everything on board the cruise ship, the food, the entertainment, all the activities had been included in the price of the ticket. Too late, the man realized that he had been living far beneath his privileges.
So this is like our brain. Our brain is being too stingy with its mental energy to know that we actually have a part of our brain that will do the work for us. All those things that everybody is doing that they can do so easily, right? Stay focused, not get distracted, do this thing, switch between this task and that task and do that. All the things, right? All those things with our executive function that our brain is trying, like our brain has that capacity. So when we are not like utilizing this box, we are living below our brain's privilege. Okay. Everyone has this box. So you must learn to operate from the new box. If you're breaking things down in your do everything box, this results in failure and more stress. You must be operating from a different neural network for it to work. As my son told me, it's like you can't help your baby if you're laying on top of your baby. You have to roll up your baby to help him. And that's the truth. You can't tackle your problems when you're on top of them. You have to be in the baby steps box. You have to put it in the baby steps box. And that's the thing. Once you put it in the baby steps box, your brain will actually relax enough that it will just start doing it for you. But you have to know that this is a different location in your brain. Now, just like a manual processor cannot connect or enjoy with their loved ones when they're living in their trash bin, they need to go to the enrichment box to be able to do that. We need to go to our baby steps box. The baby steps box is as real as the enrichment box. The enrichment box is the neural network that we plug in that is responsible for theory of mind. The baby steps box is the prefrontal cortex, our executive function, that is currently unplugged due to the brain being so overwhelmed. Bridging the gap. Yay. Oh, I'm glad you like this, Autumn. So we have all used this box before. Bridging the gap here is talking about making a bridge. You are building a neural bridge. Okay. So we have used this box before. We have made these connections in some parts of our brain, right? And it would take a lot of mental gymnastics to get there and very selective to certain things, right? You weren't able to generalize it, right? But the problem is it wasn't getting applied at your core. It wasn't able to be generalized because it wasn't getting like applied to the root. It was like you applied that concept of baby steps to some parts of the leaves in the trees, okay? But if you're still chasing after all the leaves in the trees, you're still going to be overwhelmed overall. Yay, Nicole, you're feeling relieved already. Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. So it will be easier to generalize to all scenarios where we're facing overwhelm automatically when we apply it at the root. This is the act of creating a direct line to this place so it doesn't take any time to get there. This is a neural bridge. We're literally drawing a neural pathway, okay? This box is also like making your computer aware of a whole new hard drive. You now have a place to keep things. You won't need to be afraid that you're going to forget. Using it is as simple as believing it is there and sorting your problems to it. Like handing a huge stack of papers to your own personal assistant, you can baby steps anything. And we talked about this before, but 3 important things, among many others, are also found in this box. Patience, bit by bit. Trust, that previously seemed impossible. If you've had somebody you love dearly that has betrayed your trust in some way, it seems irreparable. Justice, okay, when you've been wronged by others, The first step in achieving emotional justice is to put the overwhelm of emotion and hurt in this box. This allows for instant freedom from their grasp and get relief. Let's see. This is fun. Oopsies.
Dr. Marvin, you can help me. For the first time in my life, I feel like there's hope.
Oops.
I feel like I can be somebody.
There's an old saying that the best psychiatrist in the world is the one right inside of you.
Yeah. Thank you.
There is a groundbreaking new book that's just come out. Now, not everything in this book, of course, applies to you, but I'm sure that you can see when you see the title exactly how it could help.
Baby steps?
It means setting small, reasonable goals for yourself, one day at a time, one tiny step at a time.
Baby steps.
For instance, when you leave this office, don't think about everything you have to do in order to get out of the building. Just think of what you must do to get out of this room. And when you get to the hall, deal with that hall, and so on. That's it.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Oh boy.
Baby steps. Baby steps. Baby steps through the office. Baby steps out the door. It worked. It works. All I've got to do is take one little step at a time, and I can do anything. Maybe zip around the office. Maybe zip around the office.
That should give you a lot to digest while I'm on vacation.
Vacation.
I grabbed the clip that was too long. Normally it's 1 minute, 30 seconds, but you get the idea. Baby steps. When I first started using baby steps, I kid you not, I was just like him. And I was going around, I was like, baby steps, baby steps. And it's not that I hadn't heard the word baby steps before, but it was the first time it had lit up that part in my brain. Okay. Because it didn't matter how many times Sean told me to break it up or to only grab a few things out of my cart once when I was overwhelming and dirty or whatever, right? Like he literally tried to help me break things down a million times, but it didn't matter how many times he broke something up if my brain wasn't using that neural network. So here's the transformation model. You become aware of the new perspective. So this is baby steps right here. You're going to connect with the new imagery and or search for the terminology that works for you. You have to believe and trust the relief that you feel, and you will shift and create new actions based on your insights. Apply these actions, these new actions based to everyday practice. So for me, the very first day, I had to cram things in baby steps box, right? I had to consciously remind myself to do it the first day. It started to become pretty natural by the second day. But yeah, you are going to have to remind yourself, and it all depends on how overwhelmed your brain is. So you might need to put visual cues up for a little bit until things start to automate for you, but it will automate as long as you've made that connection and the terminology or whatever it was has resonated and you know where it is and you have plugged in that prefrontal cortex. Also, don't overthink it. If you feel relief and if you're doing little bits at a time, you're using your baby steps box. I've had people tell me, and baby steps are baby steps, because they're like, well, I can't seem to be getting this, but you know what? I'm just going to do blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you're baby stepping your baby steps box. You're baby stepping the learning of your baby steps box. And it was funny because I was like, look, you're doing it. And they don't even realize that they're doing it. Okay. And then you're going to reflect and give time to enable new insights to surface and develop choices and options from new insights. This is where your brain starts to change and grow, and it starts to make neural pathways that you like. don't even realize. Like for me, I don't even know everything that's been activated since then. I just know that I activated my baby steps box and it has done so many other things. But you really want to make sure that you take note of what happens and when it happens so that you can turn around and help share with others. So share your experience. So I'm going to open up the floor to whoever has had, it could be you had an experience just now. It could be you had your breakthrough a while before. It could be whatever. It could be what you've experienced just during this whole thing. If you experience relief or whatever, like that is the beginning of it, you guys. That's the beginning of it. So you don't have to worry about it and think it might be a fluke or whatever. Like, I know my brain was really doubting it at the beginning. I was just like, is this real? I asked Sean about 100 times, is this a real box? Like, is this real? And he's like, yes, it is real. And I had to realize that I had to be patient, or I had to trust him like he had to trust me when I first taught him about the enrichment box. So I will open it up to you guys. Everybody can go ahead and feel free to, yes, go ahead, Linda.
So I can see, I think I've actually been doing that this year.
Yay.
Somebody said to me that I needed to start doing things badly to get out of the perfectionist mode, you know, that you have to wash the whole kitchen floor. And I have started breaking down tasks. And there's a lady called Casey Davis on TikTok that does comfort care. Well, okay. I'm not talking to you. Okay, the cat never gets up here, but the cat has been decided to be nosy now. So she does that. She breaks things down. She's ADHD and has young children. And I picked up some of her tips. And one of the things that she said the other day was just worry about your tomorrow self, you know, so just put a few things in the washing machine, you know, because I'm a perfectionist and I think I need to do the whole thing and fold it and iron it and all the rest of it. Right. I think I have been doing the baby steps with practical things, but I'm not quite clear how it would work with emotions, because I did have a meltdown earlier and I did also eat a donut, strangely enough. So
I hear you.
How does this work for emotional stuff?
So I'll explain that. Also, with the concrete things, though, the thing that's really important is that when you're using the baby steps box, when you've activated the box, it will generalize to everything, but also it will automate it for you so you don't have to break it down. So if you're manually breaking things down, that's not using your baby steps box. So you got to put it in the box and then let your brain spit it out for you automatically. That's what decreases the mental energy usage. Because if you are, you know, overwhelmed, even if you've gotten rid of the overwhelm, you're still using a ton of mental energy to break down all the tasks, right? You're like, okay, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to do this, but you're still thinking of all the things you got to do, right? And then you still have to organize and think about what is the most important thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And how often are we like focusing on something that isn't important, and then we find out later that it wasn't important, you know? And so that is a problem that we have because we're not organizing our thoughts and our steps. But when we put it all into baby steps, it actually spits it out for us and does it like in the order of what we need to do. So because when it lets our brain relax by using that neural network, by activating
so that's the childlike faith in it.
Yes.
Right.
We just have to believe that our brain will do it, because you know that when we give our brain and we give our bodies the nutrients and everything it needs, it does things for us, right? It will do it, and it knows where to send the nutrients first. It knows how to triage. It knows how to take care of business if we give it enough stuff, right? And so that's where we need to focus on, is putting it in the box, closing the lid, and then letting it spit back out automatically what we need to do. So baby steps isn't manually breaking down things into steps by yourself. It's letting your brain tell you what you need to do and what you need to focus on, because your brain is going to know the most important thing. Just like I'd never been able to write an outline, right? I always had to vomit all the information up first and then move it around visually myself on screen, right? On my word processor, because my brain didn't do that inside. It didn't do it on the inside of my brain. but now it
Yeah.
does it on the inside of my brain. So like for example, I literally typed up this entire presentation, the outline, everything for it in order of what it needed to be done in, like steps 1 through 10. I did it on my notes. I typed it all up and then I transferred it over. I started building a presentation around it. And I built an entire thing. Like I'll show you what this was the notes that I typed right here. See this? This is what I did. I just started to write it out. And I just went, I think I ended up adding this later, right? So I started with this, 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 and this. And then by the time I got to the end, I was like, oh wait, I need to add this at the beginning. So like, but literally everything just kind of went in the order. It was kind of in bullet point thing and everything. And I'm telling you, that has never been something for me. Like never been something that my brain was focused, like could even handle. Like,
right.
Because but now I realize it's doing it automatically for me inside my brain.
Yeah. Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yes, it's beginning to make sense. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, it's a location in the brain that will do all the work for us so we don't have to manually do any of the work. Because if we're manually doing work, we're using mental energy that we don't have to do the stuff, right?
So if you're starting to get stressed emotionally,
right,
you
put pay attention.
In the step box.
Yes, because pay attention to what's making you overwhelmed, like emotionally overwhelmed, right? Give me an example of something that makes you emotionally overwhelmed. If you can.
That I'm packing up an entire house.
Girl, okay. Can you pack up an entire house in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, emotionally, because we're separating. So it's like a mixture of physical and emotional.
Okay, so both things then. Okay, so let's tackle the physical first. Let's tackle the concrete to do that first, okay? So right now, when you think about packing up everything, there's a couple things that are happening, okay? But we're going to tackle the big thing. Your brain is seeing the whole house and everything you have to do right this second, right?
Yeah.
So is that realistic?
No.
You can't. It's literally impossible. I mean, you would literally have to have a team of people to be able to do it right now, and it would still not get done in the instant that your brain is wanting it to be done. Like your brain just wants it to.
I'm trying to do the 1,000-piece puzzle.
Exactly. And so there's that element, right? So now you could just let your brain relax and know, okay, I don't actually have to pack it all up right in this moment, this millisecond. So I can get rid of that and put it in baby steps and then let my brain relax and tell me what is the most important thing about moving. Like what do I need to do first in order to start packing up, right? And it'll start to tell you. Now, the other thing, right? The divorce. You said you're going through a divorce.
Yeah.
Is your husband a manual processor?
Yes.
So, and how long have you guys been in the group? Has he learned about the tools at all?
No, he won't. He won't join anything. He doesn't think he has a problem.
So here's the thing. My husband didn't think he had a problem either. In fact, he thought I had the whole problem, which ironically, now I look back on it, I had the executive function of like a 3 to 5 year old. So I get what he means now. He's like, are you kidding me? You're the one with the problem. So the biggest thing right now, first of all, there's no way to fix everything in your relationship right this second, right?
Right.
So put everything in baby steps and realize that you're going to slowly work away at things and you can't even control him right now anyway. So you're not going to worry about him, period, at all, right? But you just learned a tool that's going to change your life. So you're going to work on yourself so that you can be more organized, more controlled of your emotions, more together. You're calm, not chaotic. All those things that he has been begging you to do and be all this time, right? Now, I have known people that have split up. I have known people that have broken up. I've known people that have done that and they came back afterwards because they saw that the person changed because they changed. Like there was a lady that just posted the other day, 3 months ago, her husband had moved out and left her and her 4 kids. She posted that in the group. I don't know if you saw that, but it is a beautiful testament. It is so beautiful. And she hasn't even learned the hyper tools. She just learned about him as a manual processor. And she is a hyper. And so that is so beautiful. And she was able to get him back that way. and they're working on their marriage. And she was saying like, she's okay with them being apart right now because they need to work on things and it's going to be slow. And she was basically using her baby steps box just through all the instructions that I've been trying to do in the guides, right? Like I have been trying to outline baby steps for everybody regarding their manis for a long time, because I was able to master that with my breakthrough when it came with Sean. And so that was how I was able to speak his language, right? I had to, but it didn't apply baby steps to all my ADHD problems. It just did it with their right. And so for me, I was teaching everybody how to, I've always told hypers, look, I don't have any tools for you. I'm sorry, I don't. Like, we have tools for manis. I could teach you how to talk to your mani, but that's about it. Because if I had tools to fix hypers, I would fix myself already. And I can't. I'm sorry. I'm in the same boat. You know, I was just like, sorry, guys. But I did. This happened like 3.5 weeks ago, you guys. So like, this is literally hot off the press. Like we're not holding anything out on you. We're not holding out. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason I feel comfortable sharing it now so soon after everything is because I know the structure of what this is built on. It follows the same pattern and the same structure as manual processors. And I knew that change was a permanent change. So I'm not worried that the change isn't going to work, you know, in a couple months or whatever, because I know how the brain works. I know how it's structured and how it will always continue to find like that peace and that calm. Like any brain in distress is going to seek relief, and if it sees a way to do it. So if we provide a box for them, right? If we provide a box for our brain, that will provide relief without guilt, and you know, that we don't have to do everything or whatever, it will choose it. It will automatically start to choose it. And so that's the amazing thing. It does. So there's going to be moments though where it's too much to everything, blah, blah, all at once. And you don't know how to use your tool as well, very well, or whatever in the beginning, or whatever it is. I like lost it my first night because I actually got so excited that my brain was so amazing. I pushed myself so hard. I should have pushed myself hard the first day, but I did. And I totally like freaked out at everybody that night at like 10:30 at night. But I did get up at like super early and hadn't, you know, whatever. It was my first day. I'm not mad at myself. And I think I was also in the middle of my Shark Week, which is my PMDD, where like a whole week out of the month, I turned psycho and everything. But I had my breakthrough in the middle of Shark Week and it was amazing. So I'm also in Shark Week right now. And I have gotten agitated with my kids, but I'm 4 days in Shark Week. And this is the first time getting agitated with them really. So I think it's pretty good. So anyways, does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Awesome. Let me see. Is there anybody else that wants to share anything, any bits of experience, any bits of like what it felt like for them? Cassie, I don't know if you're still there, if you're there right now, but I know
I am here.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to share? Do you want to take this, take it away?
Oh man, there's been so many things now, like, and it just keeps going because, well, I was thinking about, I guess when you were talking about the overwhelm and I talk about my kids, you know, because they overwhelm me. But tonight, I guess since talking about it yesterday, and then today I was just noticing like because you do have that fear when you start to get overwhelmed, you have that fear that like, oh, is it gone? Like, am I like just, you know, reverting back to how it was? But I've noticed that, like, no, I'm not. Like, I was, I guess instead of freaking out on my kid like I normally would, you know what I mean? I would stay here and freak out, do what I gotta do, you know what I mean? Push them, like, let's go. And just be like, you know, on the verge of tears because I don't do anything. Instead, I was just like, no, like I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to deal with it at the moment. And I went downstairs to a quiet spot. And then
how was your guilt?
Oh no, I don't have any.
Exactly. That's the best part is not having guilt, because usually
Yes.
if we ever try to take a break or take care of ourselves, we feel guilty.
Oh yeah, because I was always like, oh, I'm so horrible of this and that. Like, I should, I gotta get myself together. What I didn't feel. No, that didn't even come to mind. So I can like automatically say no guilt, because I was like, nope, I'm out. So I went down and I was talking to my husband, and he kind of was not grouchy about something. I'm like, oh, okay, bye. And I came upstairs and I laid in my bed.
Right.
And I did my own thing. And then he came up there and he said, what are you doing? Are you making dinner? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just doing what everybody else is doing.
Right. I remember when I first like started to be able to effortlessly kind of guard away from the energies of other people and realize I didn't have to actually absorb them, was just like, whoa. It was like literally like the shield, this boundary shield just, totally became around me. Like, it was amazing.
It's because too, like, now that there's another option, like, I don't want the other two options. Like, I want the third option. I don't want to get overwhelmed, and I don't want to do nothing. I just want to be okay.
Right. So and something I want to point out too, because hypers, you're going to be able to relate with your manis that you're with, right? I don't know how many times I've heard a hyper say, oh, he just wants to be a jerk, or, oh, he just wants to be selfish. No. If your manual processor was stuck between their necessary box and their not necessary box, right? Their me box or their trash bin, they're going to choose their necessary box because that's safe for them. Now, it looks like we are choosing the same thing. It looks like we're choosing to be chaotic. We're choosing to be crazy. We're choosing to be irresponsible. We're choosing all these things, but we don't want that, right? Like Cassie just said, she said, I didn't want those two choices. I just didn't know of any other one, right? But once we get another choice, the brain wants to do that. And so that's the thing. Your brain will want to do it. Just like a Manny, when they start to learn about the enrichment box and everything, the enrichment box and the beyond control box, their brain wants to do that. Their brain wants to use it. And so then you get to see who they really are, because who they are with two boxes is not who they are. Just like who we are with two boxes is not who we are, right? We're a completely different person when we get another box, when we have another option. And it's ironic because it's just one, but how amazing is it? And what it covers is just like insane. It's kind of like how a Manny can get two more boxes and they become a completely different person. It's like, we just got one. We're not even working on the box that's I thought of it, it was like, it'll make me happy later box. I'm like, nah, we'll get this covered first and then we'll go on to happy later. Right.
And right. Like, and also, like, how amazing is it to choose? I think all my life, I've always chosen everybody else over myself. I mean, like, it is amazing to say, no, it's me time. Like, it's
right.
I'm going to do what I need to do. What
effortlessly.
I want to do.
And effortlessly with no guilt.
Yeah, and it's just right. That's just what's going to happen. That's
right.
what comes up, and yeah, I agree. That's what's going to happen. Let's
right.
Go do that.
Exactly. Totally.
And that's what I go do.
Exactly. This is it. I can't.
I don't care.
Out too hard.
I don't care. There's none of that anymore. Like, I don't care if my kids are mad, my husband's mad, or somebody's like confused, or I'm like, what? Like, it's all good. And I can do what I'm going to do.
Right. And you know that chart where you have that well-being, right? You safely know that you don't have to do anything in the red. No one is really expecting you to do the red, but we've always thought we had to.
I know I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm not doing anything to hurt anybody.
Right.
I'm not, like, and everyone's fed, everyone's good. So,
the only reason we thought that before is because our brain was too fuzzy to see any boundary lines at all. And so it couldn't see anything. It couldn't see that dotted line. It was too fuzzy.
I didn't even know what a boundary was.
Yeah. Boundaries.
Honestly, I had to look it up. Yeah, I'm like, what is a boundary? Like, somebody, what?
Right. Oh man. Okay. Is there anyone else on here? Nicole, did you want to, did you have a, mic? Did you want to say something? Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I will share just briefly, like, so it's Saturday morning here in Australia, and I hadn't heard about these baby steps, this box before, but I got up this morning and I immediately started to just get overwhelmed, just thinking, oh, should I do the kitchen? Should I do the laundry? Should I do some study? Should I do my morning prayers? You know, and just seeing all of it at once and thinking, and starting just to feel a bit like panicky and like overwhelmed at the start of the day, like just because there's too many options. And then I literally experienced those two boxes. So the overwhelm box. And then I thought I could just go into the study and just go on my phone and just disengage from everything. Yeah. And just like, yeah. So I came into my study and I was on my phone and I thought, what can I do to help myself? Oh, I'll have a look at bridging the gap because I haven't been on much lately because I've had uni study. And I saw this was happening and I jumped in. It's just really blowing my mind because I was experiencing the two boxes. Yeah. As I was watching that. Yes. And then when you talked about the baby step box, I was like, I literally just felt like, oh, thank God there's a different option, another option. And that is awesome. I can't believe it. It's so crazy.
It's real. That relief is real. Like you can't deny it when it starts to happen. It's just real. Yeah. I'm so glad that your instant relief box led you to bridging the gap right then. So you can go look at baby steps. This is amazing, girl. Yeah. Amazing.
So amazed. And I'm so grateful for everything you guys experience and share with us, and just almost in tears.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to start to cry because seriously, you guys, I have always felt so horrible that I couldn't help any, people with ADHD, right? And it's so much more than just ADHD because you guys, people are struggling with their executive function and prefrontal cortex, like, and they slip through the cracks and they don't get diagnosed and nobody knows how to treat anything because it's like, well, where does one start and one end? Like nobody knows. And so when we really pull it back, we pull back all the layers and just get down to the root, which it's all CDR, which means it's all just these, dark neural networks that just need to get plugged in. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's making these connections, nobody's connecting these dots. And I'm just like, Sean and I, we literally just like keep looking at ourselves. We're like, is this real life? Like, how could something so simple really, really work? It's like watertight though. It really is. Like we've been testing the other boxes all this time. It really is watertight. And now I feel like this box is going to give hyper processors or whoever, identifies as a hyper, like more faith in their Manny when their Manny starts to learn about the boxes. But it also, you're going to naturally and effortlessly start giving them what they want. You know what I mean? It's not going to take a lot of, mental gymnastics to do all the stuff that I was writing out in the guides, right? It was so hard for a lot of people to have patience and this and that, and don't overreact to this and blah, 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 because they were doing it without an executive function that would have naturally done that for them. Because it's like, how the heck are you supposed to pause and not freak out with your emotions when it feels like you got hit by a Mack truck from behind, right? It's like it sucker punched you. Your emotions sucker punch you. You don't get to see it happen. It's just too much and too big. And so because of that, it makes it so hard to pause and slow down and this and that. And so this will make it effortless. I'm telling you, you guys, I might do another live one time where I just go through and I read my, my transformation log, because I go through and I start listing all the different things that started to happen. By day 2, there was an audible voice that was calm and it was confident. It wasn't the type of voice I used to have that was like frenzy, chaotic, or tearing myself down. it wasn't like that anymore. It wasn't like a nagging, like, oh, don't forget this, and oh, you should do this, or don't do that. You're a horrible person if you don't blow. No. It was calm. It was confident. It knew what to do, when to do. It kept track of time for me automatically. And it was like this internal mom, you know, she just knew what to do. But I call her Natasha. So I don't know if anyone's a Marvel fan, but for me, I love Black Widow. And I was actually her for Halloween years and years and years ago. So for me, the voice I heard was literally like a Black Widow, how Black Widow is whenever she's like in, you know, just kicking butt, right? She just knows what she's doing. She's calm, she's confident, all this stuff. And I remember Sean was like, wow, you're doing really good, like handling things, like you're so good. And I was like, it's not hard because I'm just repeating the voice I hear in my head. I'm just literally repeating what she says. And he's like, okay. And the thing that was really amazing is out of all of this, Sean introduced the baby steps box to me by trying to help me learn how to break things down and everything like that. And I was able to, together, we came up, because he kept saying, well, you just got to break things down. You got to break things down. But I was like, baby steps box, like it's a place. I was like, I know it. It's a place. It's a place. It's not just a thing you do. It's a place. And when I figured out it was a place, he's like, that's what I said. And I was like, it's okay. Don't worry. We will jointly claim this victory. But I was like, I don't ever have to do the other two things ever again. And that I realized after mine started to get automated, I was able to turn around and look at Sean and be like, wait a minute, you're not fully automated there. And so even though he had several things where he was good at with his executive function, he wasn't automated all the way. So when I was able to teach him how it applies to his emotions, because his emotions were becoming stronger and stronger, as his brain began to automate more of it, his emotions were starting to get more in control than his logic. And that freaked him out quite a bit. But he was managing it and he was doing okay. And I told him about it. Like at first he got freaked out because he was like, I just open my mouth and words come out. And I was like, I know you're acting like your words are like a machine gun. It's like, you're just like all over. And I was like, what the heck? And it was terrifying him. And he finally was able to tell me, he's like, I open my mouth and everything falls out. I don't even think about it. And I was like, that's what my brain's always like. What are you talking about? That's normal. And he was like, what? That's what you guys deal with all the time? That's scary. And I was like, yeah, it is scary, I guess, you know, like that's why we're, you know, all over the place a little bit. But he was able to, I said, all you gotta do is just slow your mind down and be more mindful. Like we spend our whole lives trying to be mindful, slowing down our brains, right? We're all trying to manually process in that way, right? But with him, once I was able to tell him about the baby steps box, it literally started to automate for him. And he started to get an internal voice that would tell him what to do all the time and how to handle anything that was triggering. So especially if he was having like triggered emotions from his past or whatever, like I know my mom said something that was so hurtful and it triggered him and he was just like, whoa. And logic wasn't winning. And I was like, what the heck? And he's like, yeah, it was really weird. Like it was really weird. I spent 6 hours. I spent until I was exhausted, like until I fell asleep. Like he literally was exhausted just thinking about it and ruminating on it. And he doesn't do that. Beyond control fixes that. So, but beyond control speaks to logic. But if he was emotional, it wasn't going to work. And so because his emotions were becoming more powerful than logic, that's what wore him out. And he was like, what the heck? And that was a Monday. And then he had his breakthrough on Wednesday. And I just went up to him and I was like, look, BTG needs you to automate this box first before this can blow up. And he was like, but how? I don't know how. And so I had to find the right words. And for him, it was justice. He needed justice when he was triggered. And so I was like, just remember, justice is always found in your baby steps box. So he calls his baby steps box the justice box, but it's baby steps. Justice is just inside. So, but whatever resonates with you guys, you know, call it your executive function box, call it a person, you know what I mean? Like, it's funny. My kids were talking to me and I was zoned out and then they go, Natasha. And I was like, what? And I paid attention to Natasha. I was like, I actually paid attention to my brain's name, the name I gave my brain. So anyways, I thought that was funny. They thought that was quite hilarious. And yes, if your mini hasn't had time to look at the manual processor info, he can look at this chart too. Yes, I would use the other ones would be what he could probably start with. Once his brain gets all cleared up with that, then he could probably do this. Or, I mean, if he wants to try this, he can. The other boxes, though, are more geared toward a logical mind, which they're very logical right now. So I would suggest starting with that and then going on to this one. But yeah, so is anyone else want to share? Anyone else that has had any experience with, you know, learning the baby steps box and everything like that? Does anyone else want to like share what it's been like?
I will, but I have to go outside because Matthew's sleeping and I don't want to wake him up.
Yes, yes. Oh, please do, please do. I'm so excited. Girl. I have to like curb my enthusiasm. Natasha will tell me, you're being too much. You can calm down. Which is a feature that I realized actually is built in for people. So people who have an executive function are probably wondering why we're all so intense and crazy, because there's an automatic feature in your brain that tells you to calm down when you're being too intense. But if you don't have that, we're going to be intense all the time.
Okay. Let's see here. Sound on. There we go. Hi.
Yes.
You want me to start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, now I turned the volume up too. So I just really, Alicia grabbed me by the scruff of my neck because I was falling down a pit yesterday. So I haven't had that long to absorb the material or read it, actually. She just verbally talked me through it. And today, well, actually even yesterday, after we had a long phone call, and then yesterday was so much easier to take. And my plan had been to just spend the whole day. We spoke yesterday, right? It wasn't this morning.
Yeah, it was
okay.
yesterday. Yeah.
Because I planned to just spend the day in bed because just like everything in my life and with everybody I love was going wrong. And afterward, I was filled with energy, finished my day fine. And then this morning I woke up with real like resolution, like renewed energy to fix things, big issues, small issues in my life, like long things that have been going on, and just had the energy to tackle them that I didn't have yesterday morning. And to the point, Matthew also really responded well to it, and he really liked where I was like, okay, what can we get done? And what's on your plate? And, you know, how do you think we can fix issues in the business right now? And then he was like, well, I want to look into joining the Freemasons. And I was like, okay, let's look that up. And I'm like, oh, look, there's 1.4 of a mile away. And he was like, oh, cool, I'll look into that. And I'm like, do you want to just go there right now? And he was like, okay. And so he just got in the car with the dog and drove down, took a picture of the sign on the front door and sent it to me, which he never usually sends me texts, but he even sent me a text. And it's every second and fourth Tuesday or something, 7 p.m. Like he got all the details that he needs. So he came home and he was like, there, put it in the calendar, like just stuff like that. Yeah. And then at one point he was like, oh, well, you know, what else can we get done? And I started talking about this thing I want to do. And he goes, well, we can't do that right now. You're just talking like about big things. And I go, I know, but we just need to do the baby steps and then we'll get there. And I was like, wow, did I ever internalize that? I didn't use the word baby steps specifically without thinking about it. I was like, we just need baby steps and then we'll just get it done.
Oh my gosh. Oh
so
my
apparently
gosh.
It worked. And then I was talking with my my business kind of like partner, like I hire her to do all the finishing of orders and help with marketing and everything. And we just hashed out, you know, issues we've been having until we really came to some clear goals and things she can try to fix things and get things back up and running again. And then we're having a meeting on Monday. So we were writing lists of what we're going to get done Monday and stuff. And like just, yeah, it was really, really good. And then Matthew started talking about how he just wants to get married. He's just like gung-ho. He's always been this way. He's like, I just want to go to the town hall, like, or city hall, and just get married, right? Court, what's it called? Justice of the Peace or something?
Yeah.
And I want a nice, pretty, fancy wedding, right? And so I was like, oh, you know, I know you don't want like a huge number of guests. Like he doesn't want to be on display, right? Like standing up in front of people, right? That's his nightmare. And I said, there's got to be a happy medium. And he goes, well, the only other option you have is Hawaii. And I'm like, great. Okay, we're planning a wedding in Hawaii. He's just like, that wasn't what I said. It was exactly like what you said. It's like, well, yeah, I guess I did. So then we started planning that. And like,
so it's been doing smaller destination weddings. So not huge, right? So that is
just really small. Medium. And just meet, I have really close friends in Japan who I just was texting with them just now. And they were like, oh, just give us the dates and we'll be there. So really coming together. And that was even after work, like, and then my son called in crisis and I was able to be like, okay, you know, what are your 2 options for people who could come and pick you up, my dad or his aunt? And he's like, okay, I'll see if my aunt can pick me up, take me to her house. And then maybe my dad, his grandpa can come and get me. And I said, okay, I'll reach out, called my dad. He's like, I don't have money for gas. I'm like, okay, I can call the bank and transfer it to your account. Like just bada bing, bada boom, saved my son from 3,300 miles away.
Oh my
gosh. And I even got my power walk in today. So that was, and I walked the dog.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So
and then for lunch, Matthew put out some cheese for lunch and crackers. And I'm like, oh, we can just add some fresh tomato to that and then some balsamic and olive oil, like just made this really nice lunch. And then he was like, oh, that's actually really good. I was like, oh, that's fine.
Oh my gosh. You know something I found myself doing? I found myself reaching into the back of my fridge because I used to only get the food that was in the front.
Right, that you can see. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yes. And so I found myself thinking of things that weren't in my sight, you know, to make for dinner. And I found that within the first few days too. Amy, this is amazing. Tell me in comparison to what, like, so that day of yours, what is that like in comparison to before? Like
completely different, because before I would have scrolled Facebook a lot in between stuff because my brain is just like on maxing out so much.
So you were going to
instant retreating.
Relief. Yeah, retreating.
Retreating.
Talks. Yes.
And actually, I treated clients differently too, because I never used to require a deposit, and so clients would stand me up. And starting yesterday, I just realized that all the clients I've spoken to, I've been like, we just require a fully refundable deposit you get back as soon as you show up. And they're like, oh, okay, that's just the way it is. Like, that's pretty
that is a boundary. That is a boundary that just came out of nowhere. That is literally a boundary that just clarified in your brain. Yep. Oh my.
Oh, and I posted it on my website. I was like, this needs to be on my website too. And I was like, blah, 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 send there.
I bet you Matthew loved that. I bet
he doesn't know about it yet. Oh, and then we were like, oh, what are we going to do about getting online reviews? And I was like, oh, okay, I just wrote this text. What do you think of it? And it's like, to all past clients, and he's like, oh no, it's all wrong, we got to start from scratch and do it over. And then he went and he's been asleep all afternoon, but I did write it. So when he feels up to it, he can help me rewrite it and then get some good online reviews. So
it's probably good.
Yeah, I think he needed the sleep too. So
yeah, he totally did. Definitely, you guys, because you guys went through the ringer with some things.
Oh, such a horrific day. And it's still not over, but my son looks like he's just going to be staying with my dad now for a while. And then I helped him research apartments, and I found him this amazing place. I hope he gets in.
Wait, when did you help him research apartments?
About 10 minutes ago, and I found the best place ever. I just forwarded it to him, and I said, I'll help you with the deposit. I'll help you with IKEA furniture. And I said, like, see if you can call first thing in the morning. He goes, oh no, the office is still open. I'll call right now. So he's kind of on fire too. Even in crisis, he was like, I can call right now and just see.
This is what I'm talking about though. When my brain started to calm down, it was like set free. It was just on fire. It was just doing everything. It was like, it was literally like that treadmill effect where you're on a, this treadmill at like 10% incline or whatever it is. And then it gets lowered and you're like, holy freaking crap, I am strong. you know, and then you just get to take off, and it's a superpower. It's like our brains are Ferraris now, and I'm like, I always wanted a Ferrari, and now it's a Ferrari.
Actually, I've heard ADHD is Ferrari motor with Ford brakes, so that you're like out of control.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, maybe it's so great though, because boxes are
your built-in brain with your built-in, like, you know, boundary line is going to tell you when to put the brake on. Right. It's so, oh my gosh, girl, I hope you're writing all of this down. Please share in the group, because that is just amazing. I
haven't been, but when I start thinking back to just what I accomplished today, it's just crazy. Like,
well, and the thing we can share so soon is because these changes take place very quickly, and it latches on and it just clicks. And so we don't have to worry about it like, oh no, what if I lose it? It's not going to lose. Your brain is not going to forget that exists. You're never going to forget that you have an executive function. You're never going to forget that you have a vapor text box. It is literally going nowhere. Once it makes the click, okay, it might take a little bit longer for some to get the click. That's fine. It all depends on the wording and like how distressed the brain is, right? So I don't want anyone to ever feel like bad if they're not getting the click right away, right? But once it does get the click, it will take off. So it just needs to get that click. And then once it does, it's sold, it's gone. So yeah, you don't have to worry about it never, you know, or forgetting it, because you'll never forget it. You really won't. Like Sean's never forgotten his enrichment box. It's just gotten to be more and more automatic.
Boy, I'd love you to talk with my dad, because I think he is on the spectrum.
Yeah. And
he just, he's suffered with it over the years so greatly.
Well,
and
you know what group to dump him in.
Yeah, right. And you were talking about like your external environment is what's internal in your mind. His environment, like his office, is covered at ceiling to floor in sticky notes. So you just walk in and you're like, wow, this is what the inside of your brain looks like. That's what I've always said.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Seriously. He needs to be rescued. And that's the thing, you guys. This is why we turn around.
Oh, sorry, my dad's calling.
Care. Okay.
I'm going to take a little minute and answer the phone. I'll mute.
You're fine. Though. You're totally fine.
Okay.
But you guys, this is why we do this. This is why we turn around, because if Sean and I like just went along our merry little way with our breakthrough and didn't turn around to share with others, we wouldn't have BTG, right? So that's why it's so important. This is why I'm turning around at 3 weeks in to share, or 3.5 weeks in to share with the hypers, you know? And so once you guys get your transformations, once you guys get your thing, you got to turn around and help the next person who's drowning. And that happens by sharing what you've had. Now, listen, it doesn't matter how soon it is, how soon it's happened, or whatever, right? Like, if it happened right away, that's fine. Explain that you had instant relief. Explain that it's been 20 minutes and you've already done this, and this, and explain that this happened. Explain that this. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, let me wait for 3 months and then I'll share. No, because if I waited for 3 months and then shared, think about it. Everyone would still be suffering right now. Like, we don't need to wait. This is real. We can trust. We can have that childlike faith to trust in the real relief. Like I was saying in my post, look, we don't need a doctor to say, oh, you have ADHD, or you or this, or you or that, or whatever. If you're in cell danger response, if your brain is giving you 2 options, then you can use these tools. You don't have to be like, well, I don't know, because I don't know what's wrong with me officially. You know what I mean? Like, trust yourself, trust your gut. Okay. Go with what feels like the relief, right? That relief that you feel, you can't deny it. And I'm telling you though, my brain would mess with me. It would be like, was it really that bad? Was it really that overwhelming? Was it really that blah, blah, blah before? Because I'm like, it's wanting to forget. It wants to forget the trauma that I was in. And I am so glad that I wrote down everything. I started to write things down on the 3rd day, because I wasn't taking like super good notes the first few days. So I had to write it down, because things just were rapidly changing. It was just rapidly changing more than anything. And so I had to really go back and make sure that I went back through the details of everything and find it all. And it was just crazy. I can't even write down everything, but even my son Braden, okay, like unexpected things. Tonight or yesterday, he told me that now he can type way faster. And now he sees a keyboard in his head when he types. And before he couldn't. He said he couldn't do it before. And then before he typed with one finger at a time. So now he types with all his fingers and he can see the keyboard and he's way fast and he loves it. And he even texts faster and he's 11. So, I mean, that was something that who would expect that? Like I wouldn't have, you know, but I know it's 6:03 and I want to give anyone else the chance to speak if they have had any experiences with this or like whether they experienced it just now during the presentation or whether they have had it sometime before or whatever. Like, does anyone want to?
Hi Alicia, this is Autumn, and I feel thank you for doing this class again. I wanted to come so much the other day and I had something with work and couldn't, so I was so happy that I could attend tonight. And what I wanted to say is this year I've been in so much burnout that even really the last few years, but more this year, I couldn't even answer messages. I haven't cleaned my car in 6 months, like things that I could do before, but all of a sudden I just couldn't. And it's been so frustrating. And I feel like listening to you it's such a small thing, but it's like I moved and I'm like, I'll actually be able to get stuff out of my car. It sounds so small, but like everything has become like that. I own a business and sometimes I don't get back with my clients and I care about them so much, but it's just so frantic all the time. And I feel like this is finally going to give me, I couldn't explain what was happening with me and people thought I was just being, I don't know, like disorganized, but I literally couldn't do it. I couldn't text my friends back. I'd have to just go do something and focus on what I was doing. And I know I'm talking about the things that were wrong, but I just didn't have a way to do it. And now I feel like I'll be able to. So I'm looking forward to implementing it because I was just crashing. So thank you.
Yes. Baby steps. And I totally get it because that's how I was with my kid clients too. I couldn't get back to anybody. And I was like, having trouble responding to text messages, like everything. I couldn't, it was just too much. I was totally burnt out. And yeah, that's my kitty cat. Sorry about that. Anyways, but yeah, no, I totally feel you. And yes, you can. Baby steps. It will happen. Baby steps. So
thank you so much. Cause I was like, I'm a capable woman. I run a business and have clients. And I was like, what's going on? And you've explained it in a way where I'm not like judging myself. Not that I wanted to, but it just feels more doable. So thank you.
Yay.
Thank
you. Yes. See, this is what it's all about. It really is to learn about your struggle, learn about why, and then give yourself grace, mercy, let your brain relax, and it'll just do the work for you. You know?
Thank you. Thanks.
Yay. Of course. Does anybody else want to share anything? I don't want to cut anybody off before I end this. And yes, and don't forget to check the chats. And Susan says, I hope the typing thing happens for me. Haha. And Autumn, girl, you described my reality. That's what Susan was saying, in case people can't see the chats. So you guys are all awesome. If anybody else wants to go.
I'll just say to chip in that I just spoke to my dad and he's watching for my son who needs a place to stay while he's looking for his apartment, right? And then my son just texted me that he's almost there. He took a picture and sent it. So they're connecting. So it's all good.
Girl, get it done. I love it. Like seriously, this is like so like you're such a boss. Like and
I'm saving him from 3,300 miles away.
I know. Like it really feels like a superpower when it really starts to automate for you. And I'm telling you, you're a freaking boss and you've always been a boss. It's just we were all drowning. Literally, we were all drowning. So I love you all. Let's see. I don't think there's anyone else who wants to talk unless there is anybody. If you want to speak up, speak now or forever hold your peace. And okay, I will end it now. So basically the last thing was questions and we've already gone over questions. So that's it. So thank you all. I look forward to hearing about all of your changes. Please post in the group all of your changes so that everyone can learn about it so that we can rescue as many people, so we can turn around and extend the hand to the people that are still drowning. Because for me, I had to get the videos of Dr. Barkley, which has opened my eyes as to what ADHD was really all about, 3 times. 3 times. I got it sent to me by Cassie, then I got it sent to me by Tanya, then I got it sent to me by Robin. And it took 3 times for me to pay attention to it. And that's when I learned about my ADHD brain. And I had to learn about that at the same exact time that I was listening to all of our old recordings, because we were preparing to do that episode commentary, which all got put on hold because of this. But like, I was listening to that and realizing, holy crap, I'm manually processing my executive function, and this is a huge deal, and this is why we're drowning. And if we're manually processing, that means automation is the key. So that is why the baby steps box works. We get to automate and got to turn around and help the ones who are falling behind us. So okay, guys, thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thanks
for being troopers. And we ended like relatively on time, 6:08. Not too bad. So thanks for everybody for coming tonight. I really appreciate it, and grateful for all of you. So we'll talk later. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.